Good morning. It's Rick. It is just after 10 a.m. Central Time, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about election coverage, specifically election coverage on streaming platforms next week. I just got off the phone talking to a reporter about next week's coverage, and we get to talking about cable television. And I don't know if you're aware of this, the average audience for cable TV is old, even by broadcast TV standards. The youngest network, CNN, has an audience is somewhere around 67-ish is their average age. MSNBC is the oldest. They're around 70, which is really frightening when you think about it, because an average audience of 70 means that there are a substantial number of people who are older than 70 watching MSNBC. And I mean, I'm an old person, so I'm all in favor of catering to younger or to older audiences. But look, I mean, there's got to be a way to increase this audience, both the size of the audience and the demographics. I mean, what can they do to make their audiences younger and more interested in what they're doing? And that's even a bigger issue with streaming, because you would think that, oh, streaming platforms would inherently perhaps have a younger audience, but they're not programming it to a younger audience. I mean, when you look at what's being proposed for next week's streaming coverage, yeah, NBC, excuse me, has NBC News Now, which is their streaming news platform. It's only available on streaming, and so they have this big production for Tuesday night, and their primetime coverage is going to be co-anchored by Savannah Guthrie and Lester Holt, which I mean, they're both fine journalists. Neither one of them I would really think of as young and hip and interesting, or honestly any different than what you would see on any of the other traditional cable news networks or broadcast TV news networks. Uh, Amazon Prime, good for them. They're doing live election night coverage, and it's being anchored by Brian Williams, who, you know, he's been around network television and NBC News for what, close to 3 decades. I mean, he's been around a really long time. Once again, fine journalist. He's very experienced, obviously knows what he's talking about, has a lot of expertise. And to its credit, Amazon Prime is apparently going to play around with the format of the broadcast and make it seem a little bit more engaging and I hate to use the word hip, but yeah, hip for a streaming audience. But still, at the end of the day, it's hosted by Brian Williams. And I really wonder, what can a streaming network do to make their product more interesting, to make that demographic younger. I mean, it's really sad when you look at, if they could get it down to an age of, say, 55, that would be really young for either cable or streaming TV news. But that's really sort of what we're looking at. And when I get to thinking about it, I think part of it is just having on, number one, commentators and political experts who are not the same old Beltway people. I mean, it's fine to have people on there who are insiders, who used to work for the government, used to work for one of the political parties, but I think you need some outside voices in there. I mean, look, James Carville, he's on cable news all the time. And he's a talented guy. He obviously has a lot of expertise, but he came to fame as Bill Clinton's campaign manager in his first election. So we're talking early 90s. This guy's around a long time. I mean, it's sort of like, if I would like to find out what movie I should go see, I would probably talk to someone who's in their 30s. I might talk to Grandpa and see what Grandpa has to say, but his ideas, his suggestions probably aren't going to be that relevant for me. So I think it's fine to have Carville in there every so often, sort of like a really old peppery spice on top of your banquet. But you need some other voices in there, and I'm not really seeing either the cable news networks or the streaming networks, for that matter, doing it. I mean, their idea of young is, we'll just get a network anchor or reporter who's a little younger than some of the other ones, and that's going to be our young face. And I don't think this is a matter of face. I think this is a matter of content. And from what I can tell, the cable news networks and the streaming news networks have really not made an effort to make things more relevant for younger audiences. Now, I'm curious to see what you think about this. I'm curious to see what you think about next week's coverage. I'll be back talking about this again, I'm sure, between now and then. As always, like this video. It really helps with the evil YouTube algorithms. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed already. And check out my website, allyourscreens.com. And I will be back soon. Thanks.